Hello, everybody. This is the Box Score Network. I am Ben Parker, and that is Austin Freed. And once again, we are missing Shane, unfortunately, but he will be back on with us for more of these future draft prospects. We're looking at guys for the 2026 NFL Draft, so we really appreciate you joining us. We put in a lot of work into this. We studied a lot of tape for this. Tonight, we're doing Caleb Downs from Ohio State. We'll be doing more guys, a lot more guys on this network on the other network as well, Pro Football Enterprises. So go check out both channels as well. Caleb Downs tonight, 6 foot. According to what I saw, flat 6 foot, 205 pounds is what I was picking up on the internet as well. Austin, go ahead and set the table for us, and then we'll dive in.
He has to be the biggest 6 foot 205 football player I've ever seen in my life. I mean, if you just saw him standing there, you would think, oh, that guy's what, 6 foot 2, 220? Like he looks so big. And when you see him up against players who are, around his size, you're like, oh no, I guess he's not that big. But he looks massive compared to the like size you see listed for him. And I think part of that is because he's just so darn athletic. And
Yeah.
a guy who is 6 foot 205 shouldn't move the way he does. And I don't just mean straight lines, DK Metcalf, like run straight. I mean like lateral agility, jumping, sort of being able to lower his, like drop his weight and break down and wrap up while coming downhill at full speed has got to be the best I've ever seen. And that's not even to talk about how quickly he reacts and starts moving downhill. Everything from the second the ball is snapped just happens, it seems, instantaneously with him. He has some of the best recognition skills in terms of, and I don't know if it's just pure instinct or if he just is watching tape every second that he's awake, but as soon as the ball snapped, it seems like he has figured out exactly what the offense is trying to do. And it's not like he's just, trying and starting to go there. He is already at full speed on his way where he needs to get. And it's so impressive, the combination of, we'll just call it instincts for now, because it just seems instinctual. It's that level of good. But his level of instincts and athletic ability are just rare. And this is why he gets compared to guys like Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, who have those elite sensibilities to, know exactly what the offense was doing and also the physical traits to just stop it whenever they felt like it. I am not going to sit here and compare him to those two guys because I think that is lofty and I don't want to say unearned because he's looked like the best college to come out of the draft ever since I've been watching tape of guys. So uh, he's definitely earned some really high praise. I just don't feel comfortable saying those two names and his at the same time yet. And maybe I'm wrong for that. I'm willing to be wrong on that though. I think the most underrated aspect of his game is his coverage ability, specifically man coverage. You can walk him down onto a tight end, and I think I saw him do this against Tyler Warren with Penn State a couple times last year, where they just kind of walked him down. They were playing man, and he's 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, man coverage against Tyler Warren. And Tyler Warren, obviously, fantastic player,
Yeah.
caught a couple passes. But, the thing with Caleb Downs is as soon as he gets one hand on you, you're going down. You're not breaking tackles. So he was able to, keep those to limited gains. He is very, very underrated in his pass coverage ability. A lot of people just see the elite run stopping ability he has and just assume because it wouldn't make sense for a player to be so good at both of those things, but he really is. To me, he is the best player in college football right now. I don't know what that means for draft because the safety position is devalued in the modern draft landscape.
Yeah.
We saw players like Malachi Starks fall down the draft board last year. He is more talented than Malachi Starks by a significant amount, and I was very high on Malachi Starks. To me, he's a top three pick. He's potentially the first overall pick if he wasn't, a safety. But with the devalued safety position, I think he's probably likely to go somewhere between like 4 and 8. That's just more likely what's going to be the case.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned a lot of stuff that I'll mention too, and you evoked a couple of names that I'm going to evoke, but not more of what they do and don't do kind of stuff. Okay.
Hmm.
So I think Caleb Downs is a pretty unique guy. I don't see him as being like other people. I'm not saying, listen, there's been thousands of safeties in football, so he's going to look like somebody, but I don't see him being, he's his own player. So here we go. I'll start in the same place you started. His ability to read offenses is astounding, just brilliant. I mean, goodness gracious, and I think it is instinctual. I think you're right. I'm not to say that he doesn't study tape, but I think it's instinctual. It's too quick. Then his ability to react quickly. You mentioned that is fantastic. I mean, the closing speed is so impressive. So that's exactly where I started. That's where you started. And most of this is not from deep safety. Most of this is more like from kind of middle safety or linebacker type levels. But his ability to see it and then move on it immediately is it's insane. I think it is instincts, and I'm sure he adds tape work to it. It is beautiful. That is amazing. That's a superpower. Okay. Um, he can play all over the field and does, but play in the middle of the field at 5 to 15 yard depth is really his specialty. Okay, so you can move him in the box at the line of scrimmage. You can move him to deep safety. You can move him out the tight end, but he loves that 5 to 15 yard depth right in the middle of the field, kind of between the hash marks, where boy, he's just right in the middle of everything. That is by far and away his beautiful spot. That's his sweet spot. He can and does cover one-on-one, but he's bonusing up in zone. So yeah, you mentioned him covering one-on-ones, and he does. He is beautiful at covering the tight ends and can even pick up the running backs. If they want to put him down there on that, he can do that too. He can really work the tight ends beautifully. But I think he's even better in zone coverage because he's so good at read and react, right? He's right there in the middle. He's able to cover. I'm telling you, he is so smart at knowing. You can see him all the time, communicating, signaling, telling other guys where they should be, or telling other guys where he's going to be. And when he's in zone, he can do so much more of that than when he's over here stuck on a guy because he's good at the one-on-one stuff, the tight end. But boy, when he's in zone, he can just kind of field general. And so I love that. Really love the zone work there. Um, Very good against the run, but he's not physically dominant. When I think of physically dominant guys, I go back to like a Steve Atwater for the Broncos back in the 80s and like a Troy Polamalu for the Steelers, who you mentioned. Those guys would just physically blow you up, and he's not going to do that. But what he will do, he so frequently moves down, plugs the hole, makes the tackle, shuts the play down, real clean, no gain, sometimes tackle for a loss. I mean, what more could you ask for, right? So he's not going to knock guys out and blow them up, but he just moves right in, clean, done. I mean, hole plugged, tackle made, end of story. That is beautiful. So again, not the power of Polamalu or Atwater, but still really good at that. He can be blocked. He didn't always seem to fight through those blocks successfully. There were times where he could, but there were times I noticed guards, tackles moving up to catch him. They could just kind of swallow him up. And again, that's not the biggest problem in the world, but I did notice repeatedly, both seasons, multiple times, if a guy is targeting him, he works through traffic really well, but if a guy is targeting him, he can get swallowed up by blocks. And again, he's 205, he's not 300, so that you're going to expect some of that. Sideline to sideline speed is not elite. He isn't consistently able to fly out there to stop fast running backs, for example. That's something where I mentioned his favorite spot is in the middle. You won't consistently listen. If he was lined up out there at the boundary, he can make all the plays he needs to. But you won't consistently see him lining up at the middle of the field and getting all the way out there to the boundary to help others running back pitches and stuff like that, the end arounds. He's not that fast, but he moves laterally very well, as you already mentioned. Really good at that. Where am I? Where am I here? Not elite in deep third, like an Ed Reed. He just does not have that combination of ball skills, ball tracking, or horizontal speed. So when you put him deep third, and he can do it, he can play deep middle safety, center fielder. He's never out of position. He knows exactly where to be at all times, but he does not have that Ed Reed level of getting over to a deep throw on one side boundary over there, ball hawking that, ripping those down for interceptions. You just won't consistently see that out of him. Again, his superpower is more toward the middle of the field, and he is really good at that. He's not just a box safety, which is fine to call him that. I'm totally fine if you call him that. But his coverage skills and ball skills are way better than that classification. So, I've heard people try to call him a box safety. Well, he is, but he's way better than that. You've already been all over this. His ball skills and his coverage skills are way better than your traditional box safety that we think of. He is levels up from that. So, very important. I just wanted to bring that out there as well. Definitely fits into the strong or middle safety category. The tackling is effective. There are times where his technique is not great. He almost always makes the tackle. Sometimes there's a lot of heel snatching going on, where he's not quite got the great technique, the pure tackling technique. Again, I'm not super worried about that because he usually makes the play anyway. It's just every once in a while the technique is a little bit sloppy. So I'm going to stop right there. I've got a few more notes to hit here, but I don't want to leave you out for too long here. So Austin, back to you. Your turn. However you want to talk about it. Caleb Downs here. So much to cover. He's such a unique player.
Yes. I think one thing that you mentioned that I might have seen differently was when he gets blocked, and maybe you're saying it differently than I'm interpreting, but I think he disengages blocks really well. He doesn't necessarily like break blocks and get through blocks, but what I think he does really well is disengage them and be able to get his hands free to where he can then make a tackle. He's not going to necessarily, blow up a block and blow up a run in the backfield that way. But, by the time the running back gets to him, he will have, gotten somewhat free enough to get his paws on you and bring you down. So I think his disengagement of blocks is really important. And that's more of what he's asked to do as a safety and yeah, compared to someone who's, playing more of like a tackle role or a linebacker role, asking to do more in the backfield rather than more right behind or right on the positive side of the line of scrimmage for the offense. So yeah, he's gonna take a lot of gains that would normally be, 3, 4 yard runs and turn them into 1, 2 yard runs just because
Yeah, yeah,
he's able to do that so well. As a deep free safety, I think he's fine. I'm not going to sing his praises and say he's the greatest to ever do it. I think this is kind of on the line with what you were saying. I do think I have a little more um, high grade on his speed than you maybe because I think he can play numbers to numbers. He's maybe not a full sideline to sideline guy, but he's numbers to numbers and not he's not just a hash to hash guy. So I think he can cover a lot of ground. And the impressive thing is he is so incredibly instinctual when he is playing, a deep middle third, call it, and if they're playing cover three and he's in the deep middle third, he pretty much is where he needs to be already. He doesn't have to usually use that speed to like make up ground that's lost. He's usually not baited too heavily on a play action. He kind of reads it and sniffs it out and gets to where he needs to be rather than having to make up for things. And somehow, while doing all this stuff, he very rarely gets caught overplaying something and being too
right.
aggressive, which is
Yes,
what you would expect with all the stuff we're talking about. You're like, oh, yeah, this is the type of guy who definitely every once in a while, once a game at least, gets caught overplaying something and. A big play happens, right on his heels because he was overplaying the run, overplaying a pass, But it doesn't happen to him very often. Not to say it doesn't happen, but it's not something that is a really glaring weakness with him, which I think is one of the more impressive feats for him.
Yeah, listen, I didn't mention, didn't write it either, but that balance, that not being too aggressive, not overplaying, you're 100% right. That is true of him on every play. You can almost see it in the way he lines up physically, the way he sets his body, that he is in full control.
Hmm.
He knows exactly how to move every muscle, and his balance is just beautiful all the way through everything that just about everything that he's doing. I totally agree on the balance. And this is probably where, because I love Caleb Downs. I got a couple more notes. I'm not top three, top five lock on him. I'm top 10 on him. Probably is how we're going to view the speed. When I watched the games, and I'm sorry, I don't have the notes written to detail this. When I watched the games where he's basically what would be cover two, right, as the deeper safety, I did watch them quite a few times dropping so I don't know, let's say he's backed up to 20, 25-yard depth as the play develops, right? I did see several plays where they were able to drop passes in closer to the boundary at, say, 15 to 20 yards, and he just wasn't even there to make a play. I just didn't see the speed at that level that I would love to see. But again, I don't even care. I'm not really going to be asking him to do that a whole heck of a lot. I really, in today's NFL, I'm chopping at the bit to load him up in the middle where we got all these mesh routes. Again, I didn't even mention this mesh routes, bump routes, hot routes, seam routes, all of that. He can just chew it up. And there's so many guys who are linebackers who can't. They just can't do that. He can. And boy, I think that's a really high value on that today's NFL. I absolutely love that. My last couple of notes on him. For me, great way to attack him is fast guys. Throw over the top of him, challenge him vertically. Again, not when he's lined up at cover two, but when he's lined up more of that middle safety, middle linebacker feature. I have yet to see him turn and cover. I don't expect him to turn and cover, but again, if we're calling him a safety and he's part of the two safety package, but he's dropped in, I would love to challenge him vertically with fast guys and just see what he can do at the NFL level. I really love this player. Do not look for him to rescue your sorry secondary. Okay, I'm looking at you, Miami. Again, if you haven't built up a decent secondary, don't look for him to come in and rescue it. All right. If you haven't put the work in over the past 2, 3, 4 years, don't ask one guy, specifically Caleb Downs, to come in and rescue that and change the whole room. He's a beautiful player, but, listen, let's pair him up with another really good player or two, like at free safety, a true center fielder type speed demon, right? Or a good linebacker, who's kind of going to be your more physical in the box, shut down the run guy. Pair him with Caleb Downs right there, or with a cornerback who's got all the one-on-one coverage on the outside boundary stuff. You link this guy up with one of those players where they can work together frequently. That is something that is going to change your defense, all right? But don't just drop him in here, on a sorry secondary where you haven't built anything up. You're kind of wasting your time. And again, I watched a good bit of 24 tape and 25 tape on this. I love him to death. He is such a special player. I have no problem with anybody that wants to draft him number one, number three, number eight. I'm totally fine with it. I'm somewhere in the top 10 on him right now. He is absolutely fantastic. All right, Austin, final word on Caleb Downs, and we're going to shut it down, man.
Yeah, I think he can be the type of player that really can be the difference maker on a defense. He, to me, is a player worth building around defensively. He is the heartbeat of this Ohio State Buckeyes defense, and I think he can be the heartbeat of an NFL caliber defense as well. So, to me, I have no reservations when I look at the player, and I'm really excited to see how high he goes. He might be the first safety ever drafted first overall.
I would love to see it, especially today's NFL where so much of that middle stuff is needed. All right, that is Caleb Downs, everybody. For Ohio State, definitely going to be in next year's draft. Going to be very, very high, depending on who's drafting. All right, that is Austin Freed. I am Ben Parker. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.